Welcome to Expert Consultations. I'm Dr. Flavio Guzman, editor of the Psychopharmacology Institute and your host today. So here's a question for you. Have you ever had a female patient with ADHD who seems well managed most of the month, but she struggles noticeably in the week before her period? And have you wondered, this is a mood problem or an ADHD problem or something completely different? Or maybe you have noticed that a patient's ADHD became significantly harder to manage after having a baby or after entering perimenopause. If this sounds familiar, today's guest may have some answers. Our guest today is Dr. Sandra Coy. She's professor of adult ADHD at Amsterdam University Medical Centers and head of the Dutch Expertise Center for Adult ADHD. With over 100 peer-reviewed publications and more than 20 books and book chapters, Dr. Coy is one of the world's leading authorities on adult ADHD across the lifespan. In this episode, Dr. Coy explains the biology behind these patterns, which hormonal history questions to ask every woman with ADHD, and how to adjust stimulant dosing safely across the menstrual cycle. So, Dr. Coy, can you explain the biological mechanism behind how estrogen fluctuations worsen ADHD symptoms, and also why this connection may have been overlooked in traditional ADHD research?
Estrogen and dopamine are brother and sister in the brain, I would like to say. We all know that dopamine is important for ADHD, and dopamine is helping to focus, to have your memory all set, and to stabilize mood. And estrogen happens to do exactly the same. Estrogen and dopamine, they work together in the brain. Estrogen helps to build the brain, as does dopamine, so from childhood on. Estrogen is enhancing the dopamine levels in the brain. So in that way, we can understand that when estrogen drops in the last week of the cycle, postpartum or perimenopausal, dopamine goes down as well. At least that's something that we consider that's happening based on what we know about the mutual effects of estrogen and dopamine on each other. And why it has been overlooked in ADHD research? Well, the whole cycle in female ADHD has been overlooked. That has a good reason, and that's based on that all medicine has been based on the male body, not on the female body that has a cycle from puberty on. And the cycle is influencing the whole system from the brain to the sexuality, the genitals, but also the immune system, the heart, the bone density. Everything is involved with these hormonal fluctuations. And therefore, we need a female-based medicine and psychiatry instead of continuing to overlook the whole difference between men and women regarding hormonal fluctuations. Of course, men always say, and what about our hormones? Of course, they have their own hormones. They have testosterone, which is very much similar to estrogen in a way that it's the male counterpart, of course. But the male hormone levels are completely stable. From puberty, they rise, and then they are stable until older age. And that's completely a different pattern compared to women who have fluctuations every month in the last week of the cycle after giving birth for months, and during perimenopause for up to 10 years. So this is really a different story.
Moving on to clinical assessment, what specific questions should we ask women with ADHD to understand how their hormones affect symptoms?
How to take a hormonal history is very important for psychiatrists and for psychologists from now on, since we know about the interaction of hormones, neurotransmitters, and psychological and psychiatric disorders in women. So we should be sure that such symptoms are related to the cycle. For instance, when do you have most severe complaints of your mood or your ADHD? Is this in the week before your menstruation, or the last 2 weeks before menstruation, or shortly after ovulation? So let's say the 14th day of the cycle. Then there may be a short episode of complaints, because estrogen then also drops, and then it rises again in the luteal phase, and then it drops in the last week. So it's important to understand this pattern, and women should be asked to monitor their symptoms for 2 months, consecutive months, in order to be sure that there's premenstrual depression every month as a rule in a pattern, and also their ADHD severity should be monitored. And there are apps for that nowadays, so that helps a lot to get a clear view of this pattern. And regarding postpartum depression, of course, we should ask about, did you have baby the last year, and when was that, and how was your mood after giving birth, and how is your mood now? And it's important to understand that postpartum depression can have an onset between 0 days until 1 year after giving birth. So it takes some time before it may develop, and it's still related to hormones. And then perimenopause is the most difficult period because it takes so long. It may last 2 to 10 years. It differs between women. But what we should ask is, if the woman has had PMDD, premenstrual depression, she may also have had postpartum depression, and she may develop perimenopausal depression because this pattern is seen in women who are vulnerable, sensitive to hormonal fluctuations for their mood and ADHD severity symptoms. So we need to know whether or not they had these symptoms in the past during hormonal changes, and then predict already that they may be vulnerable again for perimenopausal depression. So we should ask them, when do the symptoms start? And what happens in women with a history of PMDD is that the symptoms start earlier and earlier in the cycle. So first it was 1 week before menstruation, and then it is 10 days or 14 days before menstruation. And then the symptoms start even 3 weeks before menstruation. So then it's almost the whole month that they suffer from symptoms, and the pattern gets lost. So it's no longer recognized by the woman nor the doctor. But we should know and understand that this is what perimenopause means, that the estrogen level drops earlier in the cycle over time. So first only the last week, then the last 2 weeks, and the last 3 weeks, until it's the whole month. And then you think that this woman is completely hysterical or labile or whatever you call it. And it looks like that, but it's just hormones that take their toll. And we should understand and treat it better in order to help those women, not with psychotherapy, but with biology, I'm afraid. Of course, psychotherapy is very good, but it will not solve this biological roller coaster that perimenopause is. Well, and this is only about mood and ADHD symptoms, but perimenopause, of course, also comes with a lot of physical complaints, sleep problems, sweating, night sweat, joint pains, skin changes, hair loss, vaginal dryness, sexual problems. It's all systems that are affected, and this is what makes perimenopause such a difficult time. And it's so important that psychiatrists and psychologists can recognize it, and that they use questionnaires to be sure that they're facing somebody during perimenopause in order to help them better. Also with hormone therapy, I think.
Now, about premenstrual worsening, what are the specific ADHD symptoms that can worsen during the premenstrual phase? And how can we distinguish PMDD from ADHD exacerbation, for example?
Well, it's a good question. Premenstrual worsening of symptoms entails basically both mood and ADHD symptoms. So mood symptoms may be depressive mood, irritability, lability, crying easily, and having sleep difficulties that are increased compared to the rest of the month. And ADHD exacerbation entails more hyperactive, more chaotic, less attention span, less memory. So all the ADHD symptoms increase, and so do mood symptoms. So it's really a danger week, as according to my patients, because in that week you better not say a word wrong, because you get an angry person before you, or you may be hit. Sometimes say that. But it's not funny at all. They also have suicidal thoughts in this week when they're really depressed. And the week after that, when estrogen rises again, they feel ashamed of their behavior because they feel completely different. But at that time, in that phase of the cycle, it's all very real to the woman who has PMDD plus increased ADHD severity.
Now, let's talk about premenstrual stimulant dose adjustments. What practical guidance can you give us about how to implement it during the premenstrual phase? So, for example, how much do we increase the stimulant, for how long, and what monitoring do we need?
Yeah, the premenstrual stimulant dose adjustment for premenstrual depression and premenstrual increase of ADHD severity is to increase the usual dosage of stimulant medication for ADHD with 30 to 50%. This is not a rule. This is what we did in a small pilot study with 9 women that we followed for 1.5 years. And it is published by Maxime de Jong and me and colleagues in 2023. And it's called Female-Specific Psychopharmacological Treatment of Women with ADHD, something like that. What is the right dosage? Is it 30% adjustment, 50%? And in that range, all women were happy with their usual stimulant medication. And what we saw was that all 9 women improved and that they wanted to continue ever after with this increased dosage in the premenstrual week only. Of course, this is something that should be tested in a randomized controlled way, but we haven't had the chance to do that. Maybe somebody from the United States is able to do such a study. It would be great because that's what we need to be sure that this is a good and safe treatment. But what we did do, we measured pulse and blood pressure and appetite and sleep and mood, and there were no big problems along the way during the months that we followed those 9 women. In fact, we did something that the women were telling us they did all along, all by themselves already. So they said a little bit of more higher dosage of my stimulant medication helps me to deal with this difficult week in my cycle. So this is what we've got for now. And it seems a safe way to go for now.
Now, if we think about the side effects of luteal phase dose increases, what are the most common side effects when we increase doses? And is there any guidance you provide on how to manage them?
Well, what we learned from our small study with 9 women who increased their dosage of stimulant medication in the last week of the cycle was we measured their blood pressure, their pulse, we checked their mood, their sleep, and there were no severe side effects. And all women endured and could easily handle them. So they were not more severe than they were used to have in the other weeks of the cycle with a lower dose. So the advice would be to just measure it in the first cycle or 2 cycles that the woman is increasing her dosage. You may test her pulse and blood pressure, mood and sleep, as well as the improvement of mood and ADHD severity.
So hypothetically, let's say cyclical dosing doesn't work. What can we do when patients don't respond or can't tolerate these adjustments? Do we have alternative strategies?
Well, I will be amazed if this happens at all because these women are used to stimulant medication and respond to it and can tolerate it. And the only thing that you do is a little increase in dosage during a week when the symptoms are more severe. The alternative strategy, however, would be continuous oral contraceptives or SSRIs, as far as we know now.
Now, more on the practical side, how do we navigate, in some cases, the logistical and insurance-related challenges of cyclical dosing? So, for example, when the patient needs more medication during certain weeks of the month.
I'm not sure how the system works in the US, but in my country, when you tell the doctor you need a little bit more of the dosage in the last week, he or she can calculate with you how many more medication you need for that for every month. And you just indicate in the prescription the right number of tablets that are needed. And that's it for us, because we can prescribe for more than 1 month at a time. So in our country, this is not a real problem. So I have no idea how to solve a problem if that happens in the US.
Now, about the alternative approaches for PMDD, when do you think a clinician should consider the following 3 options? First one is stimulant dose adjustment. The second one being continuous oral contraceptives, or the third being SSRIs. Do you have a way of deciding which is best for a particular patient?
There are indeed 3 options for PMDD now, and maybe there will be new ones in the future. The SSRIs, the antidepressants, are highly effective. They have been shown to be effective for years on end. But you best treat somebody with SSRIs when there's a real depressive mood during the premenstrual week, but maybe also earlier in the cycle. Some women have dysthymia, so they're rather depressed, but not severely depressed. But in the premenstrual week, they really develop severe depression with suicidality. Those women I would put on SSRI. But the stimulant dosage adjustment is something you can do easily when a woman is a stable dosed on a stimulant medication, and she can handle this by herself. The continuous oral contraceptive is to prevent a drop in estrogen, so you don't have a stop week in the last week of the cycle or the last week of taking the pill. you continue. And this is something we consider when there are a lot of physical symptoms as well, and bloating and tender breasts and that kind of symptoms. So then the hormone continuation seems to be a good way to go. And some women need 2 or 3 of all treatments. So it depends. You have to look at the patient and decide what's the first step, and then consider whether or not another step is still needed.
Before we close part 1, here are 3 practical takeaways from my conversation with Dr. Coy. The first one is that estrogen and dopamine effects are closely related. When estrogen drops, whether it's premenstrually, postpartum, or during perimenopause, ADHD symptoms worsen for biological reasons, not just psychological ones. The second is that it's very important to add a hormonal history for any woman with ADHD. You can ask when symptoms are worst in her cycle, whether mood or ADHD worsened postpartum, and whether she notices worsening as menopause approaches. It's also very helpful to have your patient track symptoms with an app for 2 consecutive months. And the third is to increase the stimulant dose by 30 to 50% during the premenstrual week as a practical intervention. It's important to monitor blood pressure, mood, and sleep during the first 1 or 2 cycles. Many patients are already increasing doses on their own. This brings us to the end of part 1. In our second segment, Dr. Coy and I continue with perimenopause and ADHD, how to recognize it, when to consider hormone therapy, and what psychiatrists often miss when treating older women with ADHD.